Right. Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rachel Fisher. I am the Member Services Librarian for Technical Services for CCS. Thank you for coming to today's webinar on bibliographic records in LEAP. We do have some attendees from IHLS today, so I'd like to welcome our guests to the webinar. Today's webinar will be focused on the cataloging workflow for importing MARC records, editing and deduplicating the records, creating new bibliographic records. The deduplication function is still only in training at this time for CCS. CCS will not be updating production until we are ready to upgrade it to version 7.4 in the spring. As my previous webinars have begun, I will review what is and is not functioning in LEAP version 7.3. When version 7.4 is ready, this functionality will not be changing for bibliographic records. There will just be some new serials and acquisitions functions at that time. After I've demonstrated the functionality, or after I've reviewed my slides, I will be demonstrating the functions in LEAP, and then we'll allow you to have some time to practice after I've demonstrated the functions. And we'll answer your questions as they come. With version 7.3, the ability to overlay MARC records when importing the records from remote databases and when you save a record in LEAP was added to LEAP. This closed the loophole, preventing you from having a full cataloging workflow. Now that you have that ability, you should have a much more seamless experience for catalogers and copy catalogers. So as I said, CCS will not be updating production until we are ready to upgrade it to 7.4 in the spring. I do encourage you to practice using LEAP in training for the time being. We will be updating training to 7.4 by the end of March. Records can be imported using the express import settings of MARC import. This means that you still can't change the settings of the import profiles in LEAP. Alternatively, you can use that Z3950 connection to import records from remote databases and then overlay them over the on-order records in the database. You have the ability to edit the MARC records. When you save the bibliographic record,
I'm in a live Zoom right now.
We're hearing some background noise. I'm sorry, I have a message in the chat. Can everyone try to mute themselves? Okay, it looks like we're good. Okay, so where was I? So let me just back up for a second. So as I was saying, records can be imported using the express import settings of MARC import. So this means you still can't change the settings of your import profiles except for that display and pack settings and your record set settings. Records can also be imported using the Z3950 connection from the remote databases from OCLC, and you can overlay those over your on-order records in the database. You do have the ability to edit MARC records, and when you save those edited MARC records, you can deduplicate the record and merge it with the existing record. Item records can be added and edited as usual. The spine labels can be printed from the label manager or as quick print. And most of the functions that are missing are minor and should not impact your workflow too much. So these include creating import profiles and full import, creating bibliographic record and item templates, the ad hoc bulk change feature of item records, diacritic shortcuts, and a separate button to check for duplicates. Oh, as well as printing the spine labels from the record sets. So if you do think I've left something out of this list of missing functions, please do let me know so I can include it in a list. And when production is updated to 7.4, please do try to use Leap for your daily tasks and let us know what you think of it and if you find any bugs. Innovative really does depend on your reports of bugs so that they can improve the quality of Leap. This slide contains the links to our cataloging and Leap course and step-by-step instructions on the CCS website. I will send these slides out to you after the presentation for you to review. And I'll send a separate email to the IHLS staff with the PDF files of our instructions because you won't be able to log into our CCS website. Are there any questions so far on what I've covered? All right, I'm going to move on to our, oh, there's a question. John asked, is what isn't in Leap now going to be in the next upgrade? Some things will be in, some won't. In the 7.4 upgrade, there will be some new serials functions that will help to improve the serials workflow. And there will be a new acquisitions feature added. But there are still a lot of features that I've listed in that slide that will not be added yet, and we're unsure of when they'll be added. Michelle is asking when we'll have more authority control features. I think those are coming soon. I'll have to check the product board and get back to you on that. Are there any other questions about what I've covered so far? Shirley asked, is there a plan to make editing the mark any more fluid, like the comparatively free text we have bib records in the I don't think so. I think they're going to stick with their current feature in which we're supposed to check a checkbox in order to access the field to edit it. I don't think we'll have any other improved abilities for copying and pasting. But I will be demonstrating how you can review two records side by side when you are checking for duplicates, and that should help a bit so that you can copy and paste a bit easier, but it won't be as seamless as just being able to highlight several fields to copy and paste the way we would with the client. Okay, so I'm going to now move on to the demonstration. And the first thing I'm going to do is to access Leap from the CCS webpage. It's an easy way to remember how to find the link if you haven't bookmarked it yet. You will find the link on the Member Tools A to Z page, as well as on the course pages. So you can find that link to Member Tools A to Z just below the picture. And it's also in the drop-down menu for Member Tools. If you scroll down towards the middle, you'll see the links for Leap Production And LEAP training, if you click on View, it will take you to LEAP. And if you click on Learn More, it will take you to the online course that is an introduction to Polaris and LEAP. And those of you who are here from IHLS will have your own links to log into. And when you get to the login page, you will have to type in CCS / and then your username and password. IHLS will have your own domain name to use, and then press sign in. Next, you'll have to select your branch and your workstation, and then press continue. You will see the alert reminding you that you are logging into training and the date that the data is current as, and then press continue. LEAP has the same color scheme as the client. Red is for production and blue is for training. So now I'm going to take some time to just pause my presentation while you practice logging into LEAP. After you have logged in, please let me know. You can type done in the chat. If you have any questions about logging into LEAP, please do ask me a question. You can either type it in chat or unmute yourself briefly and ask it out loud and then mute yourself again. Looks like several people are done. All right, we've got a lot of people that have logged in already, so I am going to move on to our next task today. So there are two ways to import records to LEAP. You can import the files from OCLC Connection using Mark Import, or you can import the records from remote databases using the Z3950 connection. So I know that some of you use one and not the other. So today I'm going to demonstrate both options before I pause again. And after the demonstration, you can take some time to practice importing the records using your workflow. I did send out a message to those that had signed up to have either a file or a title in mind to import. So hopefully if you have that ready, we will allow you to have that time after my demonstration to practice. So first I'm going to demonstrate importing the records from Mark Import. To navigate to Mark Import, you'll click on the Utilities drop-down menu. And at the bottom of the list is Mark Import. This will take you to a page labeled Mark Import Setup, and it has 5 tabs at the top of the screen. The first tab is the Profile Setup, and the other tabs are to access your import profile. So you can scroll through this list to find your profile. I'm going to select this one from Round Lake today for importing full records. And as you click on these profile tabs, you can see you cannot edit most of the settings. You can edit the display impact settings because all that they allow you to do right now is express import. So if you do need to change your item template on the item records tab, you'll need to still use the client for full import options. But you do have the ability to update your record settings if you need to change the name of your record set. So I'm going to go back to this profile setup page. And just below the list of profiles, you'll find the button to select your file. This file does not have to be in that network drive anymore or the USB drive. Because this is a web app, it can be anywhere on your computer. So I've just put this file on my desktop, and I can just click on this main link to my desktop along the side and select my file to import. Then press open. So you can choose as many files as you want to import at the same time by pressing browse, and we'll add them to your list. And then press continue. If you added too many, you'll see there's a little trash symbol right by the file. You can delete a file if you don't want to import it at this time. And then at the top of the page, you'll find your import button in green. I'm going to press import to import this file. And when it's done, it closes, but unlike the client, it does not open your jobs queue right away, so you have to navigate it to it manually. This is under the Utilities drop-down menu. Press Utilities, and then you have to click on the Cataloging Processing button. On this page, you'll see two tabs. One is for the Bibliographic bulk change reports, and the second one is for MARC import reports. So I'm going to press refresh. I see some others are practicing at the same time. And in order to open it, you can just press click. You can just click on your row, and you'll see the same import report that you would see in the client. It does take a bit of time to load it. So as the report has in the client, it has our import settings at the top. It then lists the records that have been imported and has various different error messages or messages about duplicates that you could see. And then lists your record sets. So you can easily copy your name of the record set if you need to open your record set, and then search for it in the Find tool to open it. Are there any questions about using MARC import? Okay, we will be coming back to take some time for you to practice using MARC import, but for now I'm going to move on to demonstrating how to import the records from remote databases for those that use that. So to access the Find tool, there's only one button to do so. Unlike the client that has multiple drop-down menus, all you need to do is press Find. And then from the first drop-down menu, this is the database menu, you can access all of your different record types. To search for records in the remote database, select Bibliographic Record, Remote Databases. In order to select your remote databases, you have to press this cylinder icon next to the search button. You can look in your local and remote databases at the same time. The remote database is labeled OCLC, CCSBibs here, but when you log in, you will see your name. So it would be like OCLC Evanston Bibs or OCLC Round Lake Bibs. And then press apply. And now I'm going to select a keyword. I've already identified a PDR or on order record, so I'm just going to search for the ISBN and grab my ISBN from my sticky note. Paste it here, and then press search. So you can easily identify which records are from your local database or from OCLC by this database column. It has local and OCLC in the labels. One thing that's a bit tricky is this format column. It doesn't have a nice user-friendly label like book or DVD. It has these numbers here. These numbers are the numerical equivalent of the primary type of material. And in order to figure out what these are, this one is book, but if you see a lot of different format numbers, you can access those by going to the webpage for the topic on searching in remote databases and download a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet lists all the numbers and the equivalent formats. So in order to choose the correct record to look at, you can simply click on the record and then press open to take a look at what it looks like. It opens directly to the MARC data. And then to return to the results, press results. And you can take a look at the other one. You can also double click on it. So the previous one is a better record. So I'm going to select that to open it. So at the top of your record, when you open it, it will say new bibliographic record. I'm going to cover editing a bit later. So for now, I'm not going to edit this record, even though there's a lot of information we'd need to remove from this record. I'm just going to use this to demonstrate saving and overlaying the record. So from here, you would press save. And you will see your Check Headings Assistant dialog box open. If there are any MARC errors, you'll also see the MARC validation screen. If you need to correct the record, press cancel. For now, I'm just going to press continue. Oh, there's something wrong with the connection. One moment. Let me try that again. I might need to log out and log back in. So one of the reasons why we haven't upgraded production to 7.3 yet is there have been some odd glitches. So this might be a glitch today that's appearing. I haven't had problems with it yet. Let me give this another try and see if it will save the record. Okay, so here is the bibliographic record duplicate detection results screen. This looks the same as what you would see in the client, except for the design. So I will be covering how to look at the records side by side once I finish the editing demonstration. But for now, you can see that the record to retain would be the current record that I have open, the one from OCLC, and the record to replace is the on order record, the PDR. If there's more than one record, you'll see those in this list, and you'll have to check a checkbox to select a record to overlay. When you do check the checkbox, it will add the list of control numbers to this drop-down menu, and you can select the control number that you would like to retain. There will also be the word none here. If you have multiple control numbers, if you select none, it will assign a new control number to the record. I don't think it matters which control number you select. If you do not see your record in the list, you can select add titles. One of the main reasons you wouldn't see a record in the list is if you recently imported a provisional record. Those records aren't indexed except for the control number. So you might need to get that control number from your import report so you can search for it and add it to the list. We're going to next press replace. If you press continue, it will not overlay the record. So press replace. And hopefully it won't be glitchy. Great, and the record has been added to the database. So to access that record, if you need to look at it and edit it, you can press the Mark tab. Are there any questions about importing records? Brenda commented that she does not typically replace records when there are duplicates. She copies and pastes them into the 970 record and save that record. I do recommend practicing deduplicating the records, but you are welcome to continue using this workflow that works for you. There are some fields that do need to be copied and pasted from one record to another, and I'll show you how to do that soon when I work on editing. You will still be able to continue to copy and paste your 970 field. It's just a bit more cumbersome when doing it in Leap than in the client, because you have to open up the records in a new window and use the checkbox to have access to the field to edit it. So now that I've demonstrated both ways of importing records, I'm going to allow you to take some time to practice importing your record, either from your Mark file through Mark import or using the remote database through the Find tool. So feel free to take the time that you need to import that record or file and type done when you're ready to move on. And I'll wait for several people to type done before you move on. Sarah asks if there's a way to search for the UPC number using Z3950. That's a good question. Let's see. So one thing I found that's a bit glitchy that I should mention about Leap is that if you try to set up like filters or keywords first, it kind of acts a little bit weird and doesn't necessarily search right. So I do recommend, if you need to change anything in your Find tool to search, press cancel to close it and open it again. So I'm going to set up this search again to select the remote database and open up that keyword field drop-down menu. It's the third drop-down menu, and see what we can find out. We have ISBN and ISSN. And all keyword fields. It doesn't specifically list UPC. So I guess you could try using it with the all keyword fields. I'd have to search for the correct record to find a UPC code to try it today. But I would say the best bet would probably just be as an ISBN or ISSN. But all keyword may work. So if all keyword didn't work, I will have to contact Innovative about that to see if they have any plans to add the UPC. I'm going to write that down. So you may need to do an Idea Lab submission for that. Are there any other questions? Does anyone still need some more time to practice importing records? Okay, I've got a lot of people saying done in the chat, so I'm going to move on to editing the MARC record. I'm going to search for a MARC record. I've created an intentional duplicate, so I can deduplicate it using Sufficiently Advanced Magic, really great book. And I'll open up this duplicate I created. Okay, so when you open up your record, you do end up initially on this preview page for the brief record. And to access the MARC record, you will need to click on the MARC tab. So as we've been talking about and mentioned, that one of the more difficult things about LEAP is that you do have to press a checkbox in order to edit the record. When you press the checkbox, it activates the buttons along the top. This includes editing a tag, inserting a tag, deleting the tag, and moving the tag up and down. We do have a preferred order set up in system administration settings, so you don't really need to move the tag up and down unless you'd really like to make sure it's in the right place, but it should appear in the right place in the record in the pack, regardless of where it is in the MARC record. And despite the difficulties of the added step of needing to check a box, there are some very user-friendly editing features that I really like, and I think you'll like them too once you start using it, that you'll see when I demonstrate how to edit the data field. It can be very useful for new catalogers or new copy catalogers. And it will allow you to not even look up the MARC fields to remember what all the different subfields are and the meanings of the subfields or the meanings of the indicators. So first I'm going to demonstrate editing a fixed field. So I've checked the 008 field. When you click on Edit Tag for any of the fixed fields, you'll see the usual dialog box that opens with the drop-down menus for each of the positions. And so I'm just going to select Maps here to add something into the 008. And then once you press OK, it adds that to the record. And I'm going to now edit the 490 field so that I can demonstrate editing a data field. So this is what I really like about LEAP, is this dialog box for editing the data fields. It's got a clear label at the top that appears when you type the tag in. And for each of the indicators, you've got this drop-down menu that tells you what each of the indicators mean. You don't have to guess which position your cursor needs to be in to add in the first or second indicator. And there's also this yellow box below the data box that lists every single subfield and the meaning of the subfield. So you don't have to go to the MARC website to look it up. You don't have to look up the meaning of the indicators or the meaning of the subfields anymore. And I really like that. I think it's great for new catalogers. So I'm just going to add in a volume. So just like the client, you can press Control-Q to add in your delimiter. And I'll type in book 1. And then press OK to add that to the record. So you can see it's added book 1 to the 490 field. And so the next button is the insert field. You can insert the 006, 007, you can insert 008 if you're creating a new record, and you can also insert the data field. So when you press these buttons, you'll see the usual drop-down menus that will appear so that you can select the codes for the different positions from the drop-down menus. And when you select on inserting a data field, you'll see that same insert data field dialog box that will appear. So by typing 655, it adds in the label at the top for the index term of genre form. It updates the indicator drop-down menus, so you can see that the list of all the indicators are here with their meaning. So I know I want to select a second indicator of 7. And you also have all of the subfields listed. So I'm going to add in a new genre heading. I'll type in my subfield A, and we'll add in a homosaurus heading for LGBTQ plus fantasy fiction. And we'll type Control Q again to add in the subfield 2, homo it. And then we'll press OK to add it to the record. So it does add it to the bottom of the record. And I'll just move it up because you have to select it in order to move it to its correct position. And if you do need to delete anything, you can select more than one field to delete at a time and then press the delete tab. But Jamie commented that if someone doesn't want to use the mouse, you can also tab to the field and hit space to select it. There are also shortcuts EID for edit, insert, and delete. Is under the help drop-down menu. You can press keyboard and you'll find your mark editor shortcuts. So one of the things that has not been added are the diacritic shortcuts. So what I've found is that you do need to type something with the diacritic in Word, and then you can copy it into Leap. It displays it properly in Leap if you've copied it from Word. Unfortunately, the hex codes don't work either, but it's fairly easy to type it in Word and paste it into that data field editor in Leap. Are there any questions on how to edit mark records? All right, so we're going to take some time before I duplicate this record to allow you to find a record. If you don't have one open yet, you might have already opened a record, and practice editing, inserting, and deleting fields. When you are done with that, type done and let me know. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat or unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question out loud. Catherine commented that online keyboards such as Lexa logos also work and can be faster than Word. Thanks for the tip, Catherine. Does anyone need any more time to practice editing MARC records? All right, I'm going to move on to our next demonstration of merging this record with the record that's already in the database. So one thing that the client has is a separate deduplication button that hasn't been added to Leap yet. In order to deduplicate the records, you do have to save the record. And to activate that save button, you have to make a change in the record first. So it doesn't just allow you to save a record that hasn't been updated yet. I'm going to press save. So you will see that check headings assistant or MARC validation screen come up in case there is an error in the record. If you need to correct something, you can press cancel or press continue to move on. And you'll see that bibliographic record duplicate detection results screen that will pop up. It does not have that drop-down menu for choosing a control number that you saw when I imported the record. That's only for importing records from the remote databases. I'm just going to first review some things about this dialog box first. So the record to retain is going to be that record that you have open. If you need to retain a different record, you'll have to close this and open up that record you want to retain. And the record to replace it will be in the list. If there are multiple records in the list, you'll need to review those records to make sure that you've chosen the correct duplicate. You may see that the ISBN could bring up records with different titles or authors. This could mean that the records are different formats or even in a record erroneously, so you'll need to check and make sure you've got the right record. The format, thankfully on this page, is a word and not those numbers like the remote databases. So you should easily be able to identify what the correct duplicate is and Leap here. However, there may be those cases, as you know, in which the format could be wrong, like it could be video recording instead of DVD. And the reason column is also very useful. The reason column states why Polaris thinks it's a duplicate and lists the different match codes. So this can include an ISBN or UPC, the OCLC number and the 035, the title and the 245, or the LCCN number. And you also have that option to add titles in case you don't see something here. So in order to compare the titles, there's two ways that we could do it. One is by using a workflow tracker, and the other is by looking at them side by side in separate windows. So first I'm going to demonstrate using the workflow tracker by clicking on this record to replace. You open it. To access the workflow tracker, you have to press these three bars in the upper left-hand corner, and you can pin it open by pressing the pin. The record to retain will be the top record if you just have two records open. The record to replace is the second record. So if I click on it, you can see that the bibliographic record duplicate detection results screen is still open. So I'm going to press cancel. And you can toggle back and forth between the two records to compare them. So while you're doing it, you see that there is something that you need to copy from one record to another. You can open up your record in a separate window. So to do that, it's not set up like the client in order to easily compare records side by side, but you'll have to open up a new tab. So what you'll do is copy the URL from the URL bar and press the plus sign to open up a new tab. And then paste it into the URL bar. And in order to open up this tab in a new window, right-click on the tab, and you'll see a drop-down menu. And then you'll click on Move Tab to New Window. So now that I have it in the new window, you'll need to use this square icon next to the X to open up the different options for configuring your windows. And I'm going to select this one to place it on the right side, in this rectangle here. And then you'll see all of your other open windows that you can choose from. And I'm going to select the other window for Leap. And then I'll have to use that work form tracker to toggle to the record to retain on the left and the record to replace on the right. To scroll down, and then I can easily compare them side by side. So if one record was missing something that another record wasn't, or that another record had, you'll have to click on that field and then press Edit Tag to access it. So you can, so you can easily just copy this information from the Edit dialog box, press Cancel, rearrange the screen again, and then press Edit Tag on the other record, or Insert if you needed to insert a new tag. You can press Insert the data field and add in the record. Press OK. Well, it already had the 520, so it didn't need to add in another one. And sometimes you'll see this validation results appears on the right-hand side to validate and save when you're editing the record. But in order to deduplicate it, I can only have one of these open at a time. So I'm just going to take a look and confirm which one I wanted to retain. This one has the item records. And the one on the left was the new record. So I'm going to close one of these. And press, I'm going to delete this 520 at the bottom. I don't need that. And then I can press validate and save. And the duplicate detection results will appear again. So I need to click on the record to replace in order to be replaced, and then press replace. If you press continue, it will not merge the record. So I'm going to press replace to overlay the record to retain over the record to replace. It is currently open. Let's see, 1 second. I need to make sure it is closed. Okay, I do have it open here. So I need to close that second record. And now that I've closed that second record, I should be able to overlay it. And I press replace. And the bibliographic record has been updated. So now you can see that this is the updated record because I've added that homosaurus heading into the 655. And Shirley typed in a tip for anyone who wants to skip a little step. It is also possible to open the record, the second record, directly into a new window instead of a new tab by right-clicking or control-click on any link. And Brian asks, will only one record at a time be replaced, or can multiple records be replaced at the same time? Multiple records can be replaced at the same time. When there are multiple records in the database, you will see multiple records appear in that list as they would in the client. You have to click on the checkbox to check the box to select the records that you need to replace, and then can press replace. Are there any questions? All right, so because you probably haven't opened up a record that has a duplicate, or well, you may have, you may not have, I'm not going to take the time for practicing deduplicating at this time, but I'm sure you can find some duplicate records to practice deduplicating, or can import some more on order records to practice deduplicating after this session, but I am going to demonstrate creating new records, and then you'll be able to practice creating new records. So there's two ways to create new records. One is by creating the record from scratch from a template or without a template, or you can copy an existing bibliographic record. So to do so, you'll need to click on the new drop-down menu at the top and select bibliographic record. From this dialog box, you can select a template or you can select none. I'm going to select a template to make this easier. And I'll choose this kit template at the top and press OK. So to save this, it won't let me just save it as is. I'll need to edit something, so I'll just click on the title and change its number and press OK. Fairly simple. You can edit it as you need to edit it and then press save. So you'll see your check headings assistant dialog box appear. And so here's a good example of what the duplicate dissection results look like for records that could have multiple matches. You can see that there's book matches and kit matches. And you can go through the list to see if you need to deduplicate it by just clicking on it to open it. And then you can close it to return to your duplicate detection results. But I don't want to deduplicate this right now, so I am going to press continue. And I'm going to use this record to demonstrate copying. The actions menu is where you'll find copy. And when you press copy, it will open up this mark record. And I'm going to have to edit this again to save it. I'll change this number to 6. And then press save. So the duplicate detection results appears again. And this is a good example of if I didn't need to deduplicate multiple records, it would add those control numbers to this list. You'd be able to check, select the one you'd want to retain or select none here. But I don't want to deduplicate those because these aren't duplicates. I'm just going to press continue. Fairly quick and easy way to create those new records. So if there are any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. And we do have some time for you to practice creating a new record. You can create a new record and then copy that new record. And when you're done, press done or type done in the chat. Brenda asks, when creating a PDR for a new video game, I usually leave the 260 and 336 empty. When practicing making a PDR, I got a message to validate and save that the subfield data is required. Is there a way to leave these blank? Let me try that and see what happens. Brenda, do you have a template that you start out with? What's your template name? Okay, let's see if I can find that. EAK video game template. Here it is. Okay, so I've just added a test title to that, and I'm going to press save so you can see what Brenda got. So this is mark validation results. 260 subfield data is required. 336 data is required. Okay, let's see. Let's see. I'm going to try deleting these. Brenda asked if we can delete those. So I'm checked both 260 and 336. Press delete. And I'll try validating and saving again. Okay, that worked. So I recommend deleting that. You could update your template to delete those fields from your template so you don't see them in your template anymore. And then you won't have to delete them when you're creating your PDR record. Are there any other questions? Jessica asks, can you please provide a timeline for when we will have to use Leap rather than the client? We don't have a specific timeline yet. There's a lot of features that haven't been added, and we're not sure when they will be added. So I would say that we'd want to make sure that you have a seamless experience in Leap, so that you can have all of the usual functionality that you're used to be able to create new templates, to be able to use full imports, to be able to do the ad hoc both change of item records and also to print labels from record sets. So we're not going to require that you use Leap, but I think it's great to be able to start to use it when you can, when you feel comfortable using it so that you can identify if there's any bugs. We've definitely had one library try to use it for acquisitions that found some bugs that were very important to find. So we were able to immediately contact Innovative to get them to start working on it, although they still haven't fixed the acquisitions bug yet. But they're working on it. It's an EDI bug that's not processing EDI invoices properly. So these types of things are very important to find. They do like to hear from CCS when they find the bugs. But we're not going to force you to ever use Leap until we know that it's really ready to be able to use it. But as more features are added, we're going to continue to have training, and I have plans to have some games that we can play so that you can practice using Leap once we have more capability being able to use it. With the 7.4 update though, if you do also use Leap or work with serials, we will have the ability to print the serials labels soon. So you'll be able to check in your serials and print serials labels, and I'll have some more serials training once 7.4 is available. So that should allow anyone who does the serials check-in to have a seamless workflow in Leap. So I think we'll be able to start using Leap in pieces. I know some libraries have started to use it for their book processors to be able to work with item records in Leap, and some have started to use it for smaller parts. So we were taking some time away from the presentation to practice creating new bibliographic records. Does anyone still need some time creating new records? If you're done, feel free to type done in the chat. All right, it looks like several people are done. I don't have any other content for today. I did schedule it for an hour and a half in case there were any other questions. Feel free to type them in the chat if you do have any questions. But if there are no other questions, I know this can be somewhat frustrating to switch to a completely new system, especially the way they are updating Leap and using the agile workflow in spurts. So it's kind of difficult to learn little pieces at a time as new pieces are added. But now is a great time to practice using Leap in the training server to get to know it and test it out. We definitely would appreciate anyone trying to test it because there are regular glitches that we find. And we need to make sure that Innovative fixes those glitches before we update the training server with the next update. So we'd appreciate anyone practicing and letting us know, like when we were using the remote database, we encountered an error. So that's one potential glitch. We also had glitches just trying to open up item records or patron records. So if you do have some time, please do let us know what you find. Take some screenshots of any error messages and describe your process and send us the information in the help desk. It would be really helpful so that we can help Innovative improve Leap. And if you have no other questions, I do appreciate hearing feedback from you in our survey. We like to improve training in order to meet your needs. So I've placed a link to our survey in the chat, and please do let me know if you have any ideas for any more training sessions or would like any training sessions just for your library. Please do contact me at the help desk. And if anyone from IHLS has any questions, I'm going to type in my email address in the chat. If there are no other questions, we can end our session today.